We are back. It is finally NFL Week 1. We have made it through an entire preseason, a long offseason, and it is time to set some lineups. I know I'm excited, and I bet every one of you is as excited as I am. You wouldn't be listening to the show if you weren't. Speaking of this show, it is our newest show, the DFS Academy. We are here to help you get some lessons on roster construction for both cash builds and tournaments. And we're not just going to talk about DFS, we're going to actually let you guys play with us. Let's do it. Welcome to the DFS Academy. I am your host, Ryan Weisse, and I am terrible at DFS, but I sit next to the smart kids in class, and that's why you're here too. Not because you're terrible at DFS, because you want to be around my smart friends. Speaking of which, Kelly Singh, introduce yourself.
Hello, Kelly Singh. Find me on that app at Kelly in Phoenix. I love DFS. I don't know. What do I say, Ryan? I just love all of the things. Win some money.
Well, I was going to say, I feel like you have been such an ambassador for DFS, but I feel like not in such a way. This is going to sound awful. Like, you don't sit there and try to tell everybody how fun DFS is. You try to tell everybody how fun it is to win money at DFS. And you have such a wonderful system for doing so. And I think we need more ambassadors like that. Like, don't go have fun and lose your money. Go have fun and win your money, right? That's the point of this thing.
That is the whole point. Yes, win. Let's win.
Exactly. And Austin, I can't seem to get rid of you. We end the mock draft show. The very next week, I'm with you with a DFS show. Our forever co-host is Austin Amandolia. Austin, please introduce yourself, buddy.
Yeah, hi. You can also get me at Austin_FFL on the Twitter X. Let's just combine the two, and on Instagram. And yeah, you're stuck with me year-round now, Ryan. You have to accept it. And I cannot believe football season is here. Just got done watching this game. I'm like, I cannot. It's like my brain is a little bit on sensory overload right now because I'm like, there's so many lineups to make. There's amazing football happening. I'm getting annoyed at the commentators. It's beautiful. It's that time of year.
We're already tired of them. This is how dedicated my degenerate co-host are. We are recording this in the middle of the Thursday night game, and that is going to be a thing we do to release this for you every single Friday to help you guys build these lineups. The reason we have two co-hosts to help me get better at DFS, we will always joke that I host shows so that I can get better at things, is one of these guys, Austin, loves to focus on cash games, and Kelly loves taking down big GPP tournaments. Kelly, if you don't mind, could you give people just a brief description for some of the new people to DFS on what the differences is in those kind of lineups?
Yes, absolutely. I would first love to say if you are new to DFS and you just want some quick wins, I definitely recommend cash games, which Austin's going to introduce you to. I made quick money fast when I first started playing DFS. Why? Because you just have to suck the least. You put in $5, you win $10. You put in $2, you win $4. Basically, that's it. Look for double ups, head to heads, anything like that where you're getting a payout of cash just for not sucking. When you play tournaments, GPP tournaments, basically that means there's going to be a payout, but it's only going to go to the top number of people who have performed. So even if you played really well, you can be out by fractions of a point. Trust me, it's happened to me. And the goal of a GPP tournament is to differentiate yourself so that you are now scoring more points out of the norm than everybody else. So the goal is not just to suck the least and pick the best lineup, it's to pick the best lineup that nobody else picked.
Yeah, so Kelly's taking the advanced course, but Austin's here for the beginners too. Not that there's anything real beginner about cash, but Austin, you've always described this, you and I do a ton of shows together, as a way to build your bankroll with cash.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. And I think another thing about it is, like, if in redraft you're the type of player that's like, I want Keenan Allen, I don't want Mike Williams, cash games are for you, because that is where you need to be betting on a safe floor and making sure that you're going to hit a certain number of points every week to make sure you're winning money. And for me, not only does do cash games allow me to build my bankroll and continuously increase money throughout the course of the season, but it also frees me up to feel more aggressive when I play tournaments, because I am betting on those cash games to help me break even and make a little bit of money. And so then I'm like, okay, I can get weird in my tournament, and that makes me comfortable. Whereas if I was just playing tournaments, I would do dumb things like play Keenan Allen all the time. And I love the guy, but he's not the 40-point type.
He doesn't have the ceiling.
Exactly.
No, I think that's a great description, guys. And if you want to get into some cash games, in the description of this video, you are going to find links to a contest we are holding on DraftKings and another contest we're holding on FanDuel. Join both, join one, join none. We'd prefer you join some of them, but check the links in the description, and also keep an eye out for Austin's article tomorrow. I'll have the links in there for you as well. Guys, it's called the DFS Academy. We're here to school you on DFS a little bit. So a lot of the categories are going to be framed towards school, and our very first category is going to be called Top of the Class. And these are the studs. These are the players who are going to cost you more than $8K on any given website. Austin, I'm going to let you lead us off on your favorite player. Not a surprise considering the team he plays for.
Yeah, so looking at the matchups this week for the running backs over 8K, my favorite matchup there is Bijan Robinson. He is 8K on DraftKings and 7,800 on FanDuel, which I think is berserk that he's cheaper on FanDuel. I have to throw that out there.
I actually want to throw that out there to you because I want to bring this up because this is something I always struggle to remember. I know the budget is 10,000 higher on one of the websites. Which one is it?
FanDuel.
So FanDuel, it is higher. So if someone is cheaper on FanDuel, that's very strange.
Yeah, that is very strange. And yeah, I don't know. Somebody at FanDuel messed up their job this week. I guess that's all I got to say. But Bijan Robinson, I mean, this is the wonder kid. This is what we've been waiting for months. We've been hyping this kid up. And look, particularly on FanDuel, I think he's going to score touchdowns. Like, he's going to be their goal line back, and he's going to get the yardage that you need to provide a safe floor. FanDuel is a half PPR website, and so touchdowns and yardage is much more important than on DraftKings, where you're looking for those receptions. And the great thing about Bijan is he's going to give you both. Sorry, Bijan. I learned that this week. I'm trying to remind myself. Bijan Robinson.
Is it really?
Yeah,
I did not learn that this week.
So. This was new. Bijan. But the good thing about him is on DraftKings, he's going to get those PPR points too. He's going to be used in the pass game. And he could easily pop off for 100 rushing yards. Would not shock me a bit. They're going to run this ball a lot. He can get that 3-point bonus. So I love him. I think he's a safe bet this week if you're paying up at running back, which there may be reasons not to, but he's a good bet for paying up.
Kelly, with Bijan Robinson, is there any worry that we don't know his role right away in that offense, or is he that type of talent where he's going to come in and take over that backfield?
I don't think there's any worry. I think that he has his role. His role is pretty secured versus other rookies we're watching this evening, like Laporta. Everybody felt really good about it, but it was not sure. And he's made some good plays. Jahmyr Gibbs, though, solidified. Bijan Robinson, I think, is one of those solidified.
I like it. Kelly, you went a different route. One could say the more obvious route, last year's RB1 in PPR scoring.
And you want to know why I went this route? Because the roster ship. So we're talking tournaments. And even though this seems like the most obvious pick, people are staying away from it because it's so dang pricey.
Yeah.
If you want to pay $8,400 on DraftKings or $9K on FanDuel, that's putting you in a pretty deep hole, and spending it on a running back or a receiver or a tight end, anyone other than a quarterback, it can get dicey. But let me tell you, the rostership is so low here, being around 8%, 7%, that it would be really hard to pass this up for me, knowing what Austin Ekeler can do. So knowing what he can do, knowing that not everyone and their mom is putting him on his roster, is why I have chosen Austin Ekeler as my top of the class this week.
I think it's a wonderful pick because I am bought in on that Miami Los Angeles game is going to be the high scoring game, which clearly means it's going to blow up in our face. But I went back and looked at them last year for the wide receivers, And even though the game last year was only a 23-17 game, 3 of their wide receivers finished in the top 10 that game. And let's be clear, Austin Ekeler is a wide receiver with what he does back there. So does that make Ekeler infinitely more valuable, or maybe not infinitely, on DraftKings where it's a full PPR, Kelly?
I think it's just a nice to have, the same as we're talking about with Bijan Robinson having skill sets that are going to match both platforms. I think we're getting that out of Austin Ekeler as well. And personally, I actually don't spend too much time thinking about those rules when I'm picking my players, but that's just me.
No, that's awesome. That's actually good to know, because I feel like sometimes, again, I joke that I'm bad at this stuff, but I am. And if I'm overthinking it, other people probably are too. And I think that's a really good point. Austin, you mentioned not paying up for a running back. Is there a difference in your mind looking at cash versus GPP of paying up for a running back, or is it just what makes sense for the lineup? Like, Kelly's obviously picking probably the most expensive running back, maybe second to Christian McCaffrey. Whereas in cash, Bijan's a little bit cheaper. Does that matter in cash? Is there an instance where you would pay up for a running back, like way up in cash?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it really just depends on the slate that week, and it depends on how you're constructing your roster overall, because the thing is, you're going to have to punt somewhere. You're not going to be able to pay up everywhere. And in cash, one of the big topics we'll talk about throughout the year is with the tight end position. Like, you're often either paying up for Travis Kelce, or you're completely punting, getting one of those nice 3 to 4K tight ends. If you're getting Travis Kelce and you're on your team, you're probably not paying up at running back. The other thing is that whenever you're picking running backs in cash, and really in tournaments too, but especially in cash, you want them to triple their salary value. So for Bijan Robinson, he's 8K on DraftKings. Him tripling his DraftKings value means he's scoring 24 points. That's a lot of points, right? He's got to get in the end zone to do that. He's got to get a few catches and get 100 scrimmage yards to make that happen. And so you may say, you know what, instead of betting on Bijan Robinson to get 24 points, I'm going to pay something a little bit cheaper, maybe an Aaron Jones type who's about 6.8K, and bet on him getting 19 points instead. So it's really about your roster construction and who you think can meet their salary.
I love that you brought up Aaron Jones as we segue into the next category, where Kelly is going to talk about Aaron Jones. And I was also going to credit to myself to working with such professionals. I went to go look when you guys talked about, maybe not paying up for tight end. I'm like, none of these categories really made you guys talk about tight end, but you each worked the tight end into this. So I'm very proud of you guys. The next section we're going to call band nerds, and I love it. Austin, credit to Austin for coming up with our categories. These are the very good students who spend a little bit too much time practicing with their instruments, so they're never going to probably hit top of the class. Kelly, looking at it from a big tournament lens, these are the players that you're typically following between the 6,000 to 8,000 mark. Who are you looking at in this range?
Yeah, I followed Austin's lead. He filled out our show sheet prior to me. So I'm like, if he's picking 2, I'm picking 2.
I love it.
Let's go with Aaron Jones, 6'3" on DraftKings, 7'2" on FanDuel. I really feel like this is happening in tournaments because people have lost faith in Green Bay. Nobody knows what to do with Jordan Love. Nobody knows what to expect. Half the team is now the Jets. So when something like that happens, we are going to see the rostership of even star players become very low. And that's what we have here. Rostership is going to be around 5% on DraftKings, 5% on FanDuel. And really, that's just because of the low expectations is what I honestly believe. And one thing we also want to look at is the Chicago defense is one of the worst, if not the worst. I have to go look for stopping the running back. So your fantasy points per game playing a running back against Chicago is very, very good. I like this price. I love this rostership, and I love that they're playing a defense that's pretty poor on the run game.
No, I think that's a really good point. Now, speaking specifically to Aaron Jones, before I have you move on to your next player, and Chicago gave up the second most running backs last year, so very good. Is there a worry if Christian Watson doesn't play this game? We saw earlier practice reports where Romeo, Doubs, and Christian Watson were missing practice. Doubs was able to get back. If Watson's out, does that scare you off of Aaron Jones, or does it make him more appealing?
It does not scare me off. And here's something I constantly am preaching. It does not matter to me if this team wins or lose. I could care less. The only thing that I am focused on is the relationship between my quarterback and my player and the ability of my player to perform. So whatever is happening elsewhere on the roster, I'm not paying any attention.
Perfect. I'm gonna have you keep going in this category, Kelly. So go ahead and talk about your boy T Law.
Yeah, I really like this one too. Trevor Lawrence, 6'5" on DraftKings, 8K on FanDuel, roughly around 9% rostership on both platforms. And he's facing an Indianapolis defense. Again, this is something I like to look at, is defense versus that position. And the Indy defense is averaging about 20 fantasy points per game for quarterbacks. So your quarterback against the Colts defense is going to get 20 plus points any given Sunday. And he's got this amazing set of weapons around him. And he threw for over 4,000 yards last season. And we could just go on. But the stars align this week to play Trevor Lawrence at this price, at this rostership.
I love that. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you about, because obviously with GPP, you're focusing hard on rostership percentage.
Yeah.
What is kind of your cutoff number? Because I noticed when you were talking with the running backs, you were very excited about 5. Lawrence is getting up to 9. Does it change per position?
It can. It depends on what the top cap is, how many players are available, like quarterbacks. There are far fewer quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So it can. But if I'm looking at when it gets to double digits, then I really want to go see what is my top percentage. So maybe the top percentage is like 30% of people is doing this, but 11% of people are doing this. I feel okay about that, especially if I'm able to diversify somewhere else. Because if there's a player that really fits the build I'm trying to make, I'm going to take that player and then I'm going to try and diversify somewhere else.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I love when you brought up about Trevor Lawrence. We love the weapons. We should love the quarterback as well. I think that's a really great point. And Austin, I love your quarterback because I've already brought up, I love this matchup.
Yeah, no, we could have a whole show about this matchup. Now, my quarterback in this category is Justin Herbert. He is $6,900 on DraftKings, $8,100 on FanDuel. So a little bit pricier on FanDuel. You'd expect about like a $1,000 increase between the two sites if they were priced at the same exact value, given the amount of overall salary you have for the site. So he's a little bit more expensive on FanDuel, but I'm okay with it. Miami, they weren't that great against quarterbacks last year. They were averaging right around 20 points per game given up to quarterbacks in DraftKings scoring. And the over-under for this game is set at 51 currently. And what's interesting about this is it may seem like a gross game at times because I think these defenses can be a little frisky and can be a little volatile. And so there may be some 3 and outs, but I think the offenses are going to be so fast paced that they're going to get a lot of reps in. And I could see Justin Herbert easily putting up 40 pass attempts in this game. So I'm going with the volume play. And also I believe in this Kellen Moore led offense. Like Justin Herbert on DraftKings, like he needs to score 2 touchdowns and throw for 300 yards. I feel like Justin Herbert can do that in his sleep. Yeah. And now that they're going to be pushing the ball down the field more, I'm all that more in on it. So yeah, riding with Herbert this week. Love this matchup.
And then just keep it rocking with Chris Olave.
Yeah, so Chris Olave, he's 6,500 on DraftKings and 7,300 on FanDuel. This is, again, just a volume play. Like, he is the number 1 receiver on the New Orleans Saints offense, and they're going up against a Tennessee Titans defense that is pretty stout against the run. And not only are they stout against the run, but New Orleans doesn't have their number 1 running back this week in Alvin Kamara. They are riding with Jamal Williams and Kendre Miller. I love Jamal Williams, but he's really more of a goal line back. He's not going to be that highly efficient running back that kind of breaks out for 10, 15, 20-yard gains. And so to push the ball downfield, they're going to need to rely on Chris Olave. I feel like 8 catches is easily within Olave's grasp. So you end up with 8 catches and 100 yards, something around there. You're doing just fine. Add in a touchdown, he's easily 3xing his salary, and you can call it a day.
Kelly, looking at Austin's picks, Justin Herbert and Chris Olave, are these people who would fit into a GPP? Are they too obvious, too high rostered, or are they someone who you wouldn't look at, or can you fit them into certain lineups?
To be fair, I did not look at that, but I'm going to make a note to look at that the following week. I do feel like there will be a lot of people on both of those players this week, to be honest, just out of popularity's sake. Olave, a lot of people glommed onto last year because of fantasy success, which often will translate, not always, but often translates into these type of tournaments. Justin Herbert at that 6,900 on DraftKings, that's going to be hard to stay away from when people are trying to budget.
And that's kind of what I was asking for you there. And you got exactly where I wanted you to go. With that game having that enormous over-under, it makes sense in a cash setting, but maybe less sense in a GPP setting.
Probably, yes. If I were to take a look, Justin Herbert, like I said, it's a little tempting at 6.9.
Yeah, the price is just insane.
The price is a little tempting for a quarterback when you're looking at something that low. But I would look if you're talking tournaments. I need to look.
Oh, that's absolutely fine. Like I said, that's kind of what I was going for there. You answered the question perfectly. Next section is going to be called Bookworms, guys. The folks with the nose in the books. Easily to underestimate them, but they could be sharp. Kelly, I'm going to have you get us started with this one. These are players in the lower ends of your budget, $4,000 to $6,000.
Yes, I am going to start with another quarterback at a very, very spicy price.
So, I want you to talk specifically about the price difference here, because I found that interesting when I was looking at this. So please talk about the wonderful draft.
Here is a bit of an anomaly. I feel like, especially in golf, it can be like a $2,000 spread. When we're talking football, you're looking at more like $1,000 to $1,500. We are really pushing it here. Sam Howell, 4.9 on DraftKings, 7.1 on FanDuel. Why? I'm not exactly sure how they develop these.
My favorite part is that your very first line of your analysis is that it feels icky, but man, does it feel way worse on FanDuel.
Yes, it feels kind of icky, but we need to get past this, especially if you're looking at that 4.9K on DraftKings. We are looking at very low rosters. Okay, let me go back. I have my notes here, but here is the rub. There is always going to be some issue when we see something like this. FanDuel, pricier than I might want to pay at 7.1, depending on what I do with the rest of my roster. But the rostership is going to be around 7%. Really good. DraftKings, he is twice as popular at 14%. So you're going to need to look at what else is going on in your quarterback room as far as rostership. But at 4.9K, I guarantee you that's why it's so freaking high. Yeah. Because nobody can resist a bargain.
Yeah, they're just scrolling for the last starting quarterback.
Right. We get this bargain or we don't. Let's say we're going to pay up. We're going to deal with the 14%. If I'm going to do that, I'm going to want to stack it. And there are options to stack with lower rostership, closer to around 5%, lower salaries around 5,000. You know the names, McLaurin, Dotson. You're good with either one, I believe, if you are going to go in that Sam Howell direction.
I love that you brought this up because I feel like that's the question I wanted to ask you. Even with your higher price quarterbacks in a GPP build, are you always looking to stack, or is it something where it's really dependent on the quarterback?
I'm not always looking to stack in a tournament, but if I'm going to pay up, like I almost wanted to talk about Lamar Jackson as my top of the class and my Zay Flowers as I think I might have him later actually, but
Well, he would be the bottom of the class because he's like
yeah,
4'8".
but if I'm going to pay $9,000 in any sort of lineup plus, and I know they're going to connect with a
Yeah.
receiver that's more like $4,000 and very little rostership, that's when we have a good play. So I think Sam Howell has a lot of spicy, exciting options happening this week, and that's why I wanted to include him.
I love that. I've been doing a form of the DFS show for almost 3 years now, and I've never heard of it put that way, where if you kind of look at a stack as the wide receiver quarterback as a price combo, not just a player combo, it kind of lends itself to how to build your team more. I really like that.
It does, but I want to make sure that people don't just do that to do that, because if you're looking at a lower priced receiver of some sort, you want to make sure they're going to play. That's going to be the big sticking point, because it's really easy to say, oh yeah, Zay Flowers, he's definitely going to play. We don't know if he's going to play or he's going to play very little, and then you're in a tough spot. So just make sure you're looking at players that we know are going to get field time, relevant field time.
Yeah, don't start Sam Howell and De'Ami Brown. That's not getting anybody where they want to be
No.
in any sort of matchup. Kelly, go ahead and talk about Gerald Everett a little bit too. I feel like this Los Angeles Miami matchup is the dominant of the week 1 show.
Yes. Yeah. Miami versus tight ends in general, if anybody wants to take notes, last year was 30th in the league in allowing fantasy points per game for your tight end. So that being said, Gerald Everett, he has become a late season darling among drafters. Not exactly sure why, really. I mean, you might know why, but all of a sudden everybody's all Gerald Everett all the time. 4.3 on DraftKings, 5.5 on FanDuel. He's looking at getting at least 8 points just based on the data, plus playing Miami. And the one thing I want to do is keep an eye on his rostership, but it's so low right now that I really don't think you need to. 2 or 3% on both platforms. Great price, great availability, great matchup. I love everything about Gerald Everett, and you know that I love that whole tight end realm, and to pick him really means a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was a great find. Austin, before I have you talk about your guys, and I want you to start with your tight end since we're sticking with the tight end thing right now. But a cheaper quarterback like Sam Howell, is that ever the right call in cash? Is there just too many questions? Are you not playing for the unknown upside?
Yeah, it definitely can be. I mean, Sam Howell was a great cash play when he got his 1 start last year, and I was just completely out of it because I didn't have any faith in Sam Howell at the time. I wouldn't do it for just any quarterback, and I wouldn't do it for Sam Howell either, just because the floor could be too bad. We haven't seen enough of him to feel safe with his floor. Now, his FanDuel price, I do kind of wonder if that's indicative of FanDuel assuming he has some rushing floor to him that'll keep his performance up. But this is exclusively a GPP play in my mind. I feel like if you're putting Sam Howell in a cash game lineup, you're basically just setting your money on fire. Play me if you're going to do that. Like,
yes,
if you want to play Sam Howell against me,
for
sure.
His name's on those head-to-heads.
Yeah, but no, I'm not playing Sam Howell in cash this week.
Yeah, that's kind of where I thought you would go with that. So yeah, keep talking about tight ends, because like I said, I didn't make sure you guys had every position covered, but you guys had every position covered because you know what you're doing, and you have a tight end as well.
Yeah, because we have to start tight ends in DFS. No matter how much I want to remove the tight end position from fantasy football, it exists in DFS. So here we are. This week I'm saving money at tight end, and my favorite tight end is Tyler Higbee. He's $4,800 on DraftKings and $5,300 on FanDuel, and Cooper Kupp's out. That's the argument, right? At first I had Pat Freiermuth in as one of my favorite tight ends, just because I'm in on him having a positive regression year this year, and he'll probably make some lineups of mine later this year. But as soon as Cooper Kupp is out, I'm like, Tyler Higbee, he's going to be at least the number 2. He might be the number 1. I don't really have faith in Van Jefferson or Puka Nacua at this point. So I'll take Tyler Higbee. Odds he ends up in the end zone, decent. Odds he catches 5 balls, decent. Those are both things that are going to help my tight end cash.
Odds you're wrong about Puka Nacua. Better than decent. Man's going to eat. Can't wait for it. Big Puka Nacua guy here.
Remember, he said he was bad at DFS, y'all.
That's true. Let me be clear. I'm talking about Puka Nacua, the person, not the DFS asset.
Yeah.
Don't go out here and start building lineups around Puka Nacua. Not going to work out well for anyone except when you just want to take money from me. Austin, you threw Brian Robinson in there, and this is not my favorite running back in this matchup. So you need to convince me here.
Really? They're going to kill the Cardinals, right? Like, that's my whole argument here.
My favorite running back is Antonio Gibson, though.
Yeah, but he's not. He's a catch. He's a wide receiver, isn't he? Really? Like, when is he going to become the next Christian McCaffrey? I thought that was supposed to happen.
Well, he's going to become the next Jerick McKinnon now that Eric Bieniemy's in town.
Yeah, not convinced. So here's the deal. Washington are 7-point favorites over Arizona. Their implied team total is 22.5 points. So they're projected to get at least 3 touchdowns based on the Vegas lines. And Brian Robinson, I feel like he's just going to carry the rock and wind the clock out, and maybe he scores a touchdown. Like, he's 5,100 on DraftKings. He's 6,400 on FanDuel. So I like him a little bit more on DraftKings. I think actually Antonio Gibson is cheaper on FanDuel, interestingly enough. I still probably would lean Brian Robinson because I think it's more likely that Robinson falls in the end zone. The other thing, and this is alluding a little bit to an upcoming segment, but Brian Robinson's rushing line on Underdog Fantasy has continued creeping up throughout the week. It's getting closer to 60 yards, and I still feel good about the over there. So I feel comfortable that he's going to get the yardage and a touchdown to pay off his salary, and you're saving money with him. And so it helps you like pay up for a Bijan Robinson or a Lamar Jackson at quarterback.
Now, I've read enough of Austin's articles by editing them to know that he looks for big spreads and running backs on the positive side of that spread. Kelly, is there a way you use those kinds of spreads in GPP as well? Is that factor into your equation at all?
I would like to say yes, but I'm just going to say no.
Okay, that's perfect. I'm learning a lot about Kelly on this show. I've been editing Austin's DFS article for over a year now. I have to learn about you so I know what questions to ask you later on. But that's good to know because I feel like this is speaking more and more to the difference between cash and GPP. GPP, putting it bluntly, plays more to the fantasy side of things, whereas cash plays almost to the betting side of things. I think we could kind of take away from this a little bit.
I think that could be the takeaway. I look at it a little bit differently in the sense that when I play cash games, I'm just going to play the best lineup that I think I can put together, and I don't care who else is playing that lineup because really as long as I'm in the top chunk of people winning, then we all win. We all win the same amount of money. We all win. When we're talking tournaments, I want to obviously put the best lineup I can together, but I also need to look a little bit at some of those fantasy stats to see who they're playing against, how many points can I come out with. And then again, like we've been talking about that rostership, it just really comes into play because you want to have a unique lineup, not so unique that you're like chewing your nails off because you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen? But unique enough that when you look, you don't match the top guy.
Yeah, I think that's such an excellent point. I always like to go back and look at the guy who won the $1 million, who's never me, and see how many of the players I was right with him on. And I'm like, man, if I could have just found those other 6 players, I would have been really good this week.
We all do that.
Exactly. Austin named the next category after my life motto, C's get degrees, which I think is absolutely perfect. These are the punt plays of the week. Austin, I'm going to let you go ahead and get us started on this one.
Yeah, so we got another tight end in this spot, and you'll see I punt at tight end quite often. We have Trey McBride, another player in that Washington-Arizona matchup. He's 3,100 on DraftKings and $4,700 on FanDuel. I need him to fall into the end zone or catch a few passes. Like, that's it. I don't need much from him. And frankly, like I said earlier, Arizona, they're a touchdown underdog in this matchup. They're going to need to pass the ball a lot. Josh Dobbs is the starting quarterback this week. I am
Is he?
interested. He has been named the starting quarterback this week, so we'll see how that goes. Do not play him
I was going to
anywhere.
stop you, Austin, and let everybody know that we have a resident Cardinals expert here. So, Kelly, my first question to you is, are you saying that there may be smoke and mirrors and that Josh Dobbs is not the starting quarterback for the Cardinals this week?
It's been nothing but smoke and mirrors. I mean, people are saying it's the biggest, worst kept secret that Josh Dobbs is going to start. But as somebody who is here and watching and has been at practices and has been at games, seeing Clayton Tune in action is something else, I'm telling you. And it's something special, which is really weird to say about somebody we know nothing about. But I'm wanting to say that Dobbs is that safety net for Tune. I want them to just announce it so I don't feel like so.
Oh, they did. I think you might have missed it. You were probably working too hard.
Did they?
Yeah, they announced Dobbs as a starter. Okay, I thought you were just spread out
this
calling
whole
Gannon a
time.
liar.
Okay. I missed the big announcement. Okay, well, now I can stop feeling super angsty about it, because even this morning into the afternoon, I'm like, listen, Gannon just said he's not telling. Why are we doing this? Why is NFL even tweeting it? It hasn't even come out.
He broke his own rule there. Austin, I'm going to let you get back to your guy, but Kelly, there was one other thing I wanted to talk about, because I know you do podcasts about the Cardinals. You're our Cardinals person. Trey McBride is interesting to me because Zach Ertz is still a thing. Are they going to be used together because the team has a lack of depth at wide receiver?
I don't even know that there's a lack of depth at wide receiver. There's a name we haven't brought up because it's not worth playing this week in Cash or GPP, but Michael Wilson
the rookie,
is a fantastic wide receiver. We know that Marquise Brown is made of glass. We know that so is Rondale Moore. So I guess there is what we could call a lack of depth at wide receiver, but Trey McBride, he will probably have his day at the beginning of the season while Zach Ertz eases back into his role after rehabilitation.
When I saw this on the show sheet, Austin, I got major TJ Hawkinson vibes, where he like went off on the very first week and then we didn't hear from him again for the entire rest of the season. So I'm hoping that's not what happens with Trey McBride. But if it happens for week one, you get to take a victory lap. Austin, I'm going to let you get us started on Romeo Doubs, but I think Kelly's going to get to add to it. The first time we've had an agreement on the show already in week one.
Yeah, this is a fascinating one where we're saying he's good in cash and tournaments. I mean, my bet here is he's $4,400 on DraftKings, $5,300 on FanDuel. And I think he's going to be the target hog on this game. Like, when I think about this offense and what I've heard people talk about this offense, Christian Watson's going to be stretching the field. He's going to be getting deep targets, but Romeo Doubs is going to be one of the underneath guys. And I've heard some Green Bay beat reporters suggest that Romeo Doubs is going to lead this team in targets this year. And so I'm betting on him being kind of that underneath threat, and he's so cheap, and we need to save money somewhere in our lineups that I'm willing to go with him. And this is another situation. If he catches 5 or 6 catches and gets in the end zone, we're good, right? Like we don't need a lot from Romeo Doubs this week. We're betting on our major upside from other players, and we just need Dobbs to fall into the end zone.
Kelly, I'm going to let you continue, but I'm going to throw the same question I asked you about Aaron Jones. Christian Watson gets announced out. Does it change your mind or make you dig in deeper on Romeo Doubs?
No, I will probably play him anyway.
Okay.
I do want to back up a second. I need you to give me a physical source that says Joshua Dobbs is the starter, because anything that I've read today has said sources say.
Oh, did I get this wrong?
Sources say Josh Dobbs.
I'm just a casual Twitter follower. Okay, I saw the headline. I was like, oh, that's bad. Let's move on.
Rappaport said sources. NFL's own tweet only said sources. So there's, as far as I know, now I'm getting like
I'm
Anxious
on
again.
Sports Illustrated says the Cardinals didn't have a starter in place until Wednesday when they named Dobbs their starter for the 2023. So.
Okay. I'm going to go back and read up on that. People are going to be watching this on Friday and be like, why is she so angsty? But here's why I'm so angsty. And it's because of so much speculation, the tanking, the this, or that. I get it. I live here. I'm a homer. But also, I get it. I live here. I'm a homer. And when I see people that are like, this is fact, I'm like, sir. Anyway.
No, it's
Romeo
a really great
Dobbs.
point, and that's why I kicked the Arizona stuff to you to begin with, and you had me questioning whether I saw something wrong. So who cares one way or the other? But yes, back to Romeo.
Romeo Dobbs, not spelled the same.
No.
We already talked about that price, 4.4 on DraftKings, 5.3 on FanDuel. He is a great play in cash or in GPP tournaments this week. The value is amazing. The roster ship's down to around 2% on both platforms. I will take that all day long. Just give it to me. Not to mention, we've already discussed how terrible Chicago's defense really is. So I am all over that.
So much youth on that Chicago defense. It's going to take them a while, I think, just get a handle on things. And 2% rostership for a wide receiver 2 sounds great. And he might be the wide receiver 1, as Austin pointed out. So, all right, Kelly, this is the part where I try not to roll my eyes at you while you talk great about 5'8" Zay Flowers.
Okay. And this is where I get to throw out the new term of the week that I'm seeing all over the Twitter X app, which is girl math. So, girl math to me is intuition, heart, feeling, emotion. Zay Flowers and Lamar Jackson had amazing chemistry in the preseason. Zay Flowers can catch pretty much anything. He runs like nobody's business. I like it. Do I know if he's going to get quality play time? I do not. So that is going to be a big gamble. It's not as big of a gamble as picking a name that you don't necessarily recognize. I think when we talk about finding a low cost, low rostered player, this feels a little bit better than that to me. But when you're going to spend big, here's where you can spend small. I think it's a risk worth taking, especially at this price, at this rostership, 3 or 4%. And Lamar Jackson is leading this ship, at the helm of this ship. So it feels good to me.
I think you hit on a really good point that don't dive into the depths and pick a name out of a hat. Zay Flowers is as likely as he is to be the wide receiver 3 on this team is he could be the wide receiver 1 on this team. We don't know what we don't know. And my good friend who I used to do the DFS show with, Kira Wojtrowski, used to always talk about early on in the season is where you get the bang for your buck out of rookies, because these apps don't know what the hell to do with rookies either.
Right. And I think the coaches are still trying them too, even though we're now in the season where everything matters and everything counts. Playing a rookie versus the whole lineup of rookies in the preseason, playing a rookie in a specific spot that they've excelled at in the preseason and you need to see more is where I think we're going to get that. Just like we talked earlier about Laporta, tight end on the Lions. I think they want to see more. And so this is kind of that situation for me.
No, I think it's a really, really good point. And being the DFS Academy, you've now done our first math lesson, girl math, which I knew nothing about. I'm clearly not hip enough on the socials, but I like it. We're going to stray away from DFS a little bit because it's not all these guys do. And a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about, you can still do on these same apps. But the prop quiz section is going to be brought to you by BetStamp, one of the newest sponsors of Club Fantasy. BetStamp funnels all of your betting and DFS into one place so you can get the best bang for your bets. basically you can use the link that you're going to find in the description, and they have everything in one nice site, and they're going to show you what's available in your state and hook you up with any of the deposit matches. So check for the link in the description. Make sure you check out BetStamp when you're looking at your prop bets, your DFS betting. A lot of really cool stuff for you there. So you guys kind of got free reign here. I got to say, first and foremost, we're doing great on time. You guys have a lot of players you want to talk about here. I don't know if you want to list them and then talk about one or two, or how you want to do it. Austin, you have the enormous list, so I'm going to let you get started and pick who you want to talk about. Kelly, you might have the best bet I've seen in football in a very long time, so I'm going to let you end the section with that bet. So Austin, go ahead and get us started on some of the prop bets that stood out to you.
Yeah, I'm going to ramble through some kind of quickly. So first off, I already mentioned Brian Robinson. His prop bet's been going up this week. I got it at 51.5 on Underdog earlier this week. It's already moved up to 57.5. I still think that's too low. 60 yards feels easy for him to get. Arizona's defense supposed to be garbage. Sorry, Kelly, but everything I've heard is Arizona.
Okay, we have spent a lot of time on this show beating up on Arizona. I think we both owe Kelly an apology.
An interesting one for me is DJ Moore. His receiving line, it started at 47.5 yards on Underdog and Sleeper, which I think is too low. It's now moved up to 49.5. So I still think it's too low. I still think he can get at least 50 yards. But what's interesting about it is it's still 47.5 on Price Kings as of this recording. So you're getting a little bit better on Price Picks. Go over there, get that pick. Other ones I love, I'm taking the Bryce Young under on his passing yard game unless it gets like below 200 yards. So it started at 210. Now it's down to 203.5 yards. It's just betting against a rookie quarterback and a bad offensive line. Yeah. Carolina Panthers offensive line looks rough so far, and I think they're just going to run the ball a lot. And then the last one I'm going to call out is James Cook under 43.5 yards on Underdog. I know all the James Cooks people that love James Cook are going to come after me for this, but I think this New York Jets defense is the truth, and I don't foresee James Cook being able to really be that efficient against them.
You're breaking a lot of hearts with any James Cook negativity, but yeah, that Jets defense is something else. Kelly, you went the more betting aspect with it, and like I said, my eyes popped out of my head when I saw the show sheet. Take it over, Kelly.
Yeah, I don't do a lot of overs and unders, rivals, pick'ems, unless I am working in California. Then I'll hop on Underdog and I will play this way. But when I am home in Phoenix, I love a good parlay. Man, do I love a good parlay, or even just a good bet. I'm not sure. I was trying to check. I don't think it's still open, but I did want to call out, if you get a chance to open your app on Wednesday, let's say Wednesday, Tuesday, you're going to see some really easy, I'm going to say profit boosts, they call them. Okay. So one that I got in on this week was on DraftKings. So if you just want to make a mental note to check on Tuesday or Wednesday of next week and look for a profit boost. So it was 100 plus 100 boosts. So Jefferson and Chase, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, to each get 50 receiving yards. Seems like a no-brainer to me. Without the profit boost, you would have to pay in a lot to win any. It was like minus 230. With the profit boost, you're at an even plus 100. So you put in 5, you get 10. So That's exactly what I did. And again, just like we talked about with cash games, padding your account, finding ways to make a few bucks here and there. It's not always about the big takedown. Yeah. So I just wanted to call that out. Look for those profit boosts because they are ways that the apps lure people in to deposit. And it works.
Yeah.
Another thing I looked at this week, since we've been bashing on the Cardinals so hard. Listen, I get it. I do not think that they are going to be a winning team this season. I'm realistic, I know. But if there's ever a time for the Cardinals to win, it will be this week. So I went and looked at the Cardinals money line. I put $5 in on DraftKings, a whole $5. Ooh. We're at plus 250 for the Cardinals to win.
Good Lord.
If I wanted to cash out now, though, last I looked, like an hour before recording, or this afternoon even, $4 plus if I cash out now.
Yeah.
So something in me is saying, no, we haven't even started yet, and you already want my $5. You want to give it back to me?
Yeah, that's weird. They're worried.
So if you want to put a few dollars down plus 250 for the Cardinals to win, I have a really good feeling about it.
Oh.
The best prop
Ever.
parlay that I came across, and I should tell you, this is how I won quite a bit of money, thousands and thousands of dollars over the whole period of the season to help my daughter buy a car. We bought a used car with my fantasy winnings.
Awesome.
And it was in these big parlays. So 4 plus 1459, 1,459 plus. It's a 4-pick parlay. Anytime touchdown scores, DraftKings, McCaffrey, Jefferson, Henry, Hill, Tyreek Hill.
Literally 4 of the best players in the NFL.
Yes. They all need to score a touchdown. That feels super doable to me. And we can make some very strong profits on a parlay like that. And those are the kinds of parlays that I like to play. And once you get into the season and you have favorite players and you're very familiar with their style of play and what they're capable of, start betting those players, whether it's over unders or you're parlaying them with other players you're very familiar with. You don't have to reach when you're doing prop bets. Stick with what you know and you will win.
I love that. Guys, let's get out of the show. Back to DFS. It is the Valedictorian Shootout. Kelly and Austin are going to do a small head-to-head every week. I'm going to turn it over to Austin. You guys are going to announce your lineups live on air. I'm going to remind everybody where they can play us, and I'm going to get you guys out of here for the day.
Yeah, so my head-to-head lineup against Kelly this week, we're going with Justin Herbert at quarterback, $6,900. At running back, we're going Bijan Robinson, Aaron Jones, and Brian Robinson. Got doing that third running back in the flex spot. At receiver, Chris Olave. I went Marquise Brown.
Ooh.
I'm a little nervous about that one, but I'm hoping for some targets playing from behind. Romeo Dobbs as my third wide receiver. Got Tyler Higbee as my tight end. And then, oddly enough, the Washington Commanders in the defense slot. We may tweak that defense a little bit. I've been going back and forth on where I'm at there, but right now that's my cash lineup for this week.
Kelly, what do you got against him?
I played 2 different lineups on 2 different platforms.
Okay. Austin, which platform was your lineup on?
So that was on DraftKings. I can pull up my fan.
Nope, we're sticking with the lineup you just said. So talk about DraftKings, Kelly.
I will tell you about DraftKings then. I am going with basically what I shared this week. And that's what I do. Believe it or not. Trevor Lawrence, quarterback. James Conner, running back. J.K. Dobbins, running back. DeAndre Hopkins, wide receiver. Christian Kirk, wide receiver. Drake London, wide receiver. Gerald Everett, tight end. This one I was reaching a little bit. I don't know how I feel about it. Devin Singletary, my flex. That's where I was running out of money a little bit.
Yeah, got a budget.
I do like the Jaguars defense against Indiana, so that's what I've played there.
No, I think those are good. You guys both threw some wide receivers for a loop out there. Drake London, who hadn't been talked about at all, and Marquise Brown, maybe the shock of the show after we've beat up on Arizona the entire time. So I think those are going to make for some interesting lineups. Show us your interesting lineups. As I mentioned, we are going to have a contest going on DraftKings and a contest going on FanDuel. You will find links to those contests in the description of this video. But Austin is also going to be dropping an article tomorrow that he's about to tell you about here in just a second. And the links will also be in that article. Kelly, you do a ton of DFS work, but not a ton for Club Fantasy. But I still want you to tell everybody where they can find all of your wonderful DFS work.
Well, right now I'm actually only doing DFS for Club Fantasy and I'm doing DFS for Player Profiler. So if you want to read a full breakdown of who I've picked and why, and some additional choices that were not in tonight's show, you can go over to playerprofiler.com and check out their DFS section where I'm the newest writer over there. We also have not DFS related, but we have the Sneaky Flex Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Figure out who to put in your flex position, and we answer starts and sits with 8-year-old Maisie and her sister, 8-year-old Rowan, and they are freaking hilarious.
Best start sit show in the world.
So fun. Cardinals, you can catch the Sick podcast with Kelly Singh. It will be twice a week starting on Monday of next week. And Women of Fantasy Football has always been a part of Club Fantasy. We've been housed and produced under Club Fantasy, and we just recently launched our own YouTube channel. And we're simulcasting right now while we get people used to any Women of Fantasy Football content being hosted over there. So be sure to go and subscribe and support the new Women of Fantasy Football channel.
Yes. Support women in sports, support women in fantasy football. Best idea ever. Austin, talk about the work you're doing.
Yeah, or catch me here every Friday on the DFS Academy podcast and the YouTube live stream. And you can catch my DFS article every Friday at clubfantasyffl.com. That'll be the A-list. It's our DFS Cash article. Hey, last year we did 22 of 22 weeks. We made it all the way through the Super Bowl. We're going for our second year in a row, giving you content every week for as long as there are NFL games. So make sure you catch that. And hey, in case you think that you can just listen to the show and get on my picks, you would be wrong. There are picks I saved exclusively for the A-list.
Yes. And it's the longest article ever. I'm joking.
No, I always pick 14 players.
I know you do.
You can count on it. 14 players.
Just giving you a hard time. And he covers the defenses in there as well. So.
2 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 4 receivers, 2 tight ends, 2 defenses.
There you go.
It's got a system.
Here's what's hilarious. I have edited that article for over a year now, and I never noticed that it was always that exact breakdown. So there you go. Guys, DFS or otherwise, we have content dropping all the time at clubfantasyffl.com. There's probably going to be an article dropping every single day of the week as we get into the season. You also need to be following us on all of the social media at Club Fantasy FFL. That's where we're going to drop articles. We're going to drop videos, YouTube shorts, all that stuff. If you happen to be watching us on YouTube, just go ahead and hit subscribe, maybe hit like. It costs you absolutely nothing, but it could mean the absolute world to us. So we really appreciate everybody turning in. Always remember, even if your draft sucked, DFS is still there for you. We'll see you guys for next week's lesson. Have a great day.